Hello everybody and welcome or welcome back. You are currently tuning in to the first episode, so exciting, the first episode of my TBR Takedown series, which I'm starting here on my channel. I am on a mission to shrink my physical TBR. I filmed a cheeky little video a few weeks ago detailing my physical TBR where I asked you guys to comment what books you wanted to see me read, and the idea is that every TBR Takedown episode that I film, I choose a few comments from below that video and we read them together in a reading vlog. Now for today's video, I have chosen two quite highly requested books, and I've also chosen one that I just want to read. I'm gonna be a little bit selfish. I just want to read it. So that is precisely what we're gonna do. We are gonna vlog it. We're gonna read them together. I'm gonna give you all my updates and my thoughts. The first book that I'm gonna be reading in this video is the one that I selfishly want to read, and it is The Crimson Moth by Kristen Ciccarelli, otherwise known as Heartless Hunter, I believe, to my US friends. I'm currently on page 57 of The Crimson Moth, and from what I've gathered so far, we have Rune and we have Gideon, our two main characters. Gideon is a witch hunter. He is with the, would you call them a rebellion? Probably not. But he is hunting down witches and killing them, executing them. Meanwhile, Rune is a witch, but she's keeping it on the down low. She's being very secretive about it because her whole thing is to be the Crimson Moth, and the Crimson Moth sneaks into these prisons that are holding the witches and sets them free. So Rune and Gideon are in direct competition, but they are going to probably quite quickly figure out that they kind of need one another to complete their individual missions. They are going to be taking advantage of one another, to be completely honest, but I'm assuming they're going to fall in love along the way. And it's going to be fun. Now, just quickly, the other two books that I'm going to be reading in today's video, drumroll please, I've had a couple of you guys ask me to read this one and it's finally happening. The Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole. It's finally getting read. I'm really excited for this one because it literally says on the back, where there are gods, there are also monsters, and I am hunting. I'm on the lookout for a book that really goes into the like monster, and I don't want to say monster fantasy because that makes it sound a little freaky, but I want a book, a fantasy book with monsters in the environment, and I'm hoping that this one's going to fulfill that for me. And the other book that I'm going to be reading in today's video is bigger than the Book of Azrael, could you believe? This book is the first book that I ever put on my Goodreads TBR. She's been sitting on my shelves for probably almost 4 years, and that is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. This book is so scary, but I'm equally just as excited to get into this one. It's just so big, I'm actually scared. But I am gonna come back to you guys when I have some thoughts on The Crimson Moth. Giving square, but we're just gonna roll with it. The Crimson Moth by Kristen Ciccarelli. Is this book YA? I'm pretty sure I've seen it advertised as YA, but some of the tension and some of the like build up and the steam and the alluding to future things, maybe I'm just unaccustomed with the level of tension that a YA book has to have because it can't do much else. I'm kind of eating it up, I'm not gonna lie. I've written myself an extensive halfway update so that we don't get sidetracked and so that I can say everything I want to. I can't remember what little I said in the intro. I should probably go back and rewatch it, but I'm not going to. I don't think I said much and it probably didn't make a whole lot of sense. So, Rune is a witch and Gideon is a witch hunter with the Blood Guard, which is the royal guard in charge of hunting down witches and killing them. Rune is also a socialite, of which Gideon despises. He comes from very humble beginnings, but he suspects Rune is helping free witches after they've been captured. There is some signs of magic left in one of her cargo ships, suggesting that she's smuggling witches out of the country into safety, and so he and one of his Blood Guard friends has the very bright idea to court Rune, get closer to her, really figure out if she is actually the Crimson Moth, which is this witch sympathizer, as they keep calling people who help out witches, or a witch herself, who keeps liberating all of the witches. Take a shot every time I say witch. Likewise, one of Rune's, let's call her a godmother for simplicity's sake, has been captured by the Blood Guard, and Rune, being the Crimson Moth, is on a mission to free her godmother before she's executed. So she and her best friend Verity deduce that the best solution to the problem is to court someone with inside information. They have a whole list, and Rune wants to court Gideon because he is, say it with me now, the captain of the guard. Much to Verity's disgust, she thinks Rune is flying way too close to the sun. But alas, there is this really interesting dynamic of faking feelings and interest in each other while simultaneously trying to outwit the other and catch the other out in a lie, or draw some information out from the other. And obviously, along the way at some point, they are going to realize that the feelings became real. And just quickly, another complicating factor is Rune's other best friend Alex, who also happens to be Gideon's brother. He gets caught in the crossfire because he has allegiances to both of them. Alex and Verity, Rune's best friend, don't know why I did that, Rune's best friend, both know she's a witch. Those two are basically the only two people that Rune can trust. So a little bit interesting, Okay, I feel like that was a more cohesive summary of the plot and how we're going. Now for my actual feelings. Hello. I am quite enjoying the Crimson Moth so far. I do think it took me a good like 150 pages to actually get invested in the plot, but I'm heavily invested now. I'm over halfway. I'm on chapter 34, page 235. I really like the duplicity of both characters. They've both got their masks with each other, their masks to the external world, and then who they really are. So peak example is Rune being the kind of silly, daft, not the brightest socialite outwardly, to cover for the fact that by night she is the Crimson Moth. Gideon is the typical brute kind of guard knight kind of guy on the outside, but he has a very soft and bushy center. One example is under the guise of courting Rune, he literally designed and sewed her an entire dress because she was fretting that she didn't have anything to wear. She got invited to something really high caliber and she was fretting that she didn't have anything to wear, and Gideon was like, I'll make you something. And it was really cute. I do think he wants to kill her still, but it was really cute. I also like Rune. I think she can be a little bit selfish, but she definitely has a purpose for that selfishness. She definitely prioritizes herself over her friends, but she is at the end of the day on a one-track mind of saving witches to kind of repent for the fact that she basically dobbed in her grandma to the guard, and subsequently she was executed. She was executed. But her grandma did actually hatch that idea. It was the grandma's entire sort of plan, her entire doing to, I think, save face for Rune and make sure that she would live an okay life once the uprising happened and all the witches were being unalived, I should probably say, to avoid the YouTube censors. So yeah, Rune's not just an awful person, I swear. She's a little bit justified in the selfishness. So the writing, very simple, which is not a bad thing. There's not a lot of complexity to it, which honestly makes it really easy to read, very mindless, don't need to use a lot of brain power, but you can still kind of have fun. I'm gonna go keep reading my book. I'm gonna go for a hot shower because I'm quite simply freezing. It's winter here in Australia and I'm sick of it. Despise winter with a burning passion. It sends me into seasonal depression every year and I'm sick of it. But yeah, rant aside, that's the Crimson Moth so far, and I will probably see you when I finish it. Okay, come on. Gideon is starting to catch on to all of the lies that everybody's told him. Hello everybody, how are we today? I feel like I'm getting a little bit sick, but we are not speaking that into existence, okay? We're here to talk about some books. I'm not getting sick. I'm not. That tingle in my throat. It's nothing to be concerned about. Nothing to worry about. No, I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned. Let's talk about some books. I finished The Crimson Moth by Kristen Sigarelli. Now, I didn't go into this book with high expectations because I knew that it was YA. I knew that it wasn't going to be super complex. I knew there wasn't going to be that much romantic action, shall we say. So I didn't go in with super high expectations. I also didn't have low expectations because I know it's a very popular book, very widely beloved. So I feel like my thoughts on it, my review of it is very middle of the road. I'm going to settle on a 3.5 star. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was enjoyable. But it wasn't anything that I'm like super obsessed with. Not anything that I'm going to like necessarily write home about. I did buy the sequel. It's over there on my bookshelf. I'm not getting up to get it, okay? It's over there though. I bought it, so obviously I must have liked the Crimson Moth somewhat if I'm going to invest in the sequel, and I'm a little bit excited to read the sequel. I did write myself a review because, as we know, I get very sidetracked. I liked the relationship between Rune and Gideon. My jeans are too tight. I liked the relationship between Rune and Gideon, and I'm looking forward to reading more about them in the sequel. I did, however, clock the twist that was the huge like climax of this book at about 20-25% of the way in. As soon as the characters started lore dropping, I made a little connection and I figured it out. But that didn't necessarily like ruin the book for me. I'm never 100% confident in my theory, so like I could have been wrong, but I was right. So I had a sneaky hunch the entire way through, but it was fine. It didn't detract from the book too much for me. I guess the slight letdown for me in this book is that we never really got to see Rune fulfill her potential or like be this badass witch savior. I would understand if that's being saved for the second book. Again, my opinions could change once I read the second book. We never really got to see her fulfill what she was known as. Like, she's known as the Crimson Moth. She's known as this like a wicked witch savior that like everyone's fearful of, everyone's trying to hunt her down, but we never really saw her beyond having a couple of her plans foiled very easily by the witch hunters. And she was always just kind of like worrying about saving witches and planning to save them, but never actually saved them, at least not on page. So it was just kind of like, we're hearing all this stuff about how great she is, but we're not actually seeing it. So that's probably like my one negative point for the book. So ultimately, to bring it back around, I gave this one a 3.5 star. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. It's just not one of my like new favorites. Now, I have started the next book in this video. This is The Wall of Winnipeg by Mariana Zapata. I forgot just quite how slow and tedious and incredibly frustrating Mariana's books are. I'm 100 pages in. The plot has only just started. Miss Girl quit her job maybe 70 pages in, and he's just been poorly groveling for the past 30. And when I say poorly, I mean poorly. This man, Aidan Graves, is entitlement steeped in arrogance. If I didn't have so much faith in Mariana Zapata from The Lukov with Love and from Underlock and from All Roads Lead Here, I would have DNF'd this 80 pages ago, to be quite perfectly honest. But here we are. I am still reading it because, as established, I have faith in Mariana Zapata. Our main female character, Vanessa, whose perspective we are in for the entire book, is the personal assistant to Aidan, who is this kind of top, very well-loved and very well-known footballer who is recently returning from injury. She cooks, she cleans, she manages his social media, she puts up with his constant bad moods, and quite frankly, Vanessa is sick of it, and for good reason. She is more than ready to pursue her graphic design dreams full-time, and so she gives Aidan the flick. Now, with the future of Aidan's career and subsequently his visa up in the air with his football contract ending within a year, he panics a little bit, and so he goes back to Vanessa, who obviously ran his entire life with his tail tucked between his legs, and he offers her more money, more time off, never quite grasping why Vanessa left in the first place. FYI, because he's a giant douchebag. But he offers to pay off Vanessa's student loans and also buy her a house, which Miss Girl can't refuse, in exchange to marry him so that he can get his citizenship? Residency? He's Canadian and she's American, and he wants to stay in America. Now, can you believe I just summarized the first 100 pages? This is 100 pages, by the way. this right here. Can you believe I just summarized 100 pages in maybe 5 sentences? I think this book is about 700 pages long. So far, it's fine. It's definitely suffering a little bit from the early 2010s cringe, but I mean, it was published in 2016, so that's around the time when it was written, so it's understandable. I can get over it. I'll move past it. It's fine. Aiden pissing me off, as I'm assuming he's supposed to, and Vanessa is kind of the source of the cringe, but it's fine. I'm willing to look over it. It's not the worst thing. They just say some strange phrases, or like she said hello but like hello with like the R's instead of the L's. But anyway, everything about it is fine. I'm gonna keep reading because I've got faith in Mariana Zapata, but this book is so big. I think I'm getting over my adoration a little bit for her, and I'm just kind of like, get to the point. Get out of your head for 2 seconds, Miss Girl. Let's wrap it up. Which is really sad because I used to adore Mariana Zapata, and I still do like her, but I'm just like, oh my god. I think I'm just bitter because I still have like 550 pages left of this book. But once I get into the swing of things, I'm hopefully going to start enjoying it a little bit more. Made it through 670 pages. I fear I always go ham on tearing a book apart in my partway update, and then I have to desperately backpedal in my final update, and The Wall of Winnipeg and me is no exception. While it did still suffer from a little bit of cringiness due to being written in the early to mid 2010s and just using some outdated slang and humor, I did end up really enjoying the book and really actually falling in love with the characters. Aiden, the hero, won me over incrementally, specifically with acts of service. Oh my god, that is absolutely that man's love language. It was so sweet watching him just perceive tiny things about Vanessa and then act on it later and like do something. Oh my god, it was so sweet. Vanessa, I'm still not like the biggest fan of her. She definitely, I think, embodied that 2010s era, you know? But ultimately, the only thing that matters is that I loved Aiden and Vanessa together. I think they really balanced each other out very well. In fact, I liked them and this book so much, and the side characters specifically, that I bought Hands Down, which follows Big Texas. What's his name? Zach. That's it. Which follows Zach, who is Aiden's roommate and one of Vanessa's really good friends. Let's hope that Hands Down doesn't sit on my TBR for 4 years like The Wall of Winnipeg did. But to make a long story short, 4 stars. I'm pretty happy with 4 stars. Mariana did her classic Mariana Zapata thing of waiting until there was like 50 pages left in the book before she really gave you everything. And in each one of her books, the final 20 pages makes that first 650 pages so worth it. Do I think this book needed to be this long? No. But I did have a good time reading it. Now, I also have started the Book of Azrael. Now, I started it yesterday, the day before. Let me set the scene. I'm browsing TikTok. This man appears on my For You page singing a little song. God as a Weapon, that song, kind of tea. Kind of tea. I go down a little rabbit hole. I Google this band and this singer's controversies. I add Reddit on the end so that I get decent information. And I find out that Ronnie Radke, the vocalist, kind of a transphobic, misogynistic asshole piece of shit. But it did reignite hearing that little snippet, and I will admit, I've listened to the song a couple of times. I do not support, my morals and ethics and values do not align with his. It did send me down a little bit of a spiral back to my emo roots, because I was a big fan more specifically of like all-time low, which they've got their own handful of controversies, holy moly. And I also regularly listen to, are they Red Jumpsuit Apparatus? They had some really emo songs. But yeah, needless to say, I'm back in my screaming, whining man, heavy guitar, heavy drums era. Let's just put it that way. And so the vibes of listening to metal, I guess, while reading the Book of Azrael, I fuck with those vibes heavy. I fuck with those vibes heavy. But in regards to the Book of Azrael, I am 96 pages in. This is another really thick book. Oh my god, I want to cry. But I'm 96 pages in. I'm stopped in the middle of the chapter. I'm committing a crime. Chapter 9. I was intrigued by the first 1 or 2 chapters. Then we went and did some like side character development and depth and like exploring who this character really is and what her motivations are. And I didn't really care for it. But we're finally about like chapter 7 or 8, I want to say, we're finally getting back to the plot and the story, and I'm a little bit invested again. So, and I need to read my notes for this bit. The plot so far is we have our heroine, Diana. She used to be mortal, but has since been changed into an otherworldly creature to save herself and her sister. It's been alluded to that her and her sister were dying in a desert somewhere, and Caden, who I'll talk to you later about, Caden came along and changed them into being immortal, but there are certain trade-offs that they have to make. So some of these trade-offs include Diana has crazy powers like changing into beast forms, like wyverns, the two-legged dragons, and panthers that she can manifest as shadows and teleport. I think she can also, can she like shoot fire out of her hands or something? It's crazy stuff. But in return, she is stuck in eternal servitude to Caden. Part of the trade-off of her being his permanent like servant, his permanent assassin, his second in command, is that her sister gets to live a relatively normal life. Caden is, I guess, like a devil? I don't think he's a god, but he's powerful. But Caden is desperate to find this book called the Book of Azrael because this book allegedly has the power to open up old worlds. I think I have that right, and bring back the old gods. So this world is a little bit strange. It's urban fantasy set in modern day, like they literally have phones, they can text each other and call each other. But then we also have like hell and heaven and werewolves and vampires and like banshees. Hell and heaven are physical places. I'm fairly certain Caden and Diana and like all his servants, his army, live in hell, or at least they live in a volcano that's very reminiscent of hell. Safe to say, it's unlike anything I've read before, but I'm unsure if that's a good or a bad thing. My only gripe so far is that every single character, like Caden and his second, third and fourth in command, and like everyone who we come across, is depicted as being the best of the best, total badasses, all-powerful beings, that when an opportunity for growth or when they get into a fight arises, it's like, well, they're all-powerful. At their final stage, no leveling up can be done. There's no more development to be had because they're already up here, you know? So it kind of begs the question of what's the point? Where can these characters go from here? I don't really care to see them go anywhere further because they're already at their final form, if that makes any kind of sense. I hope that makes some kind of sense. But it's also like, you guys don't have a flaw, you guys don't have a weakness, like, but it just makes the reading experience a little bit like, why should I care? Because there could be the argument that Diana's sister is her weakness, she doesn't have these crazy powers, you know, she's just trying to live her mortal life, but she's not in imminent danger, if that makes sense. Diana is the one actively getting in fights and she's realms away. It's annoying me a little bit and it's making it really hard to root for the characters. I'm hoping that's gonna change as things evolve. They've finally angered Samkiel, who is one of the old gods. They killed one of his like right hand men and he's pissed off about it and he's like come down to their world. Tickle me a little bit intrigued, I guess. I do think I prefer a fantasy with a little bit of a more medieval setting. I think I prefer like the dragons, the knights, the princesses, I don't know, the political hierarchy of palaces and like, what's the word? Monarchies. I think I prefer that kind of fantasy to whatever this is. But I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading it. I'm gonna finish it for the video. I'm not gonna give up because I am curious. I'm interested to see if it'll improve at all. I'm hoping it will, for my sake and for your sake. But yeah, so far I'm not loving it. There is potential as we potentially get to know our characters a little bit more and a little bit better. I'm gonna keep reading it and I guess we'll just see how we go. Hopefully the next time I come to talk to you about this book, it'll be a bit of a more positive update. I think at the moment I'm just a little bit like, I'm not invested yet. I don't know what's going on. One thing that I do think is interesting in this book is that they genuinely are enemies on opposing sides. Like each one believes wholeheartedly in their cause. So Diana, I guess, is depicted to be the bad guy. You don't really realize that until a couple of chapters in, but Caden wants to bring back the old gods and is like wreaking absolute havoc on the world in order to do so. And Liam, who is Samkiel, who is also the world ender, who is also one of the old gods, I don't know why he has so many different names, but anyway, he has like returned to the world to stop them and to make sure that they don't open like all the portals, what is it, make sure that they don't get into the elder world or something, I don't know. And Diana is on Caden's side, but she's kind of being manipulated to stay there because he has power over her sister. I don't know, it's just interesting, and I'm not sure how, because I'm assuming Samkiel is the love interest, he is the other point of view in the book, so I'm pretty sure he and Diana are going to end up eventually together. But it's just interesting, and the plot is intriguing me a little bit. I have faith that this book could improve. I just think it was maybe a little bit of a slow starter, and I'm still not like in love with any of the characters or anything, but I'm intrigued enough to keep reading it, put it that way. And I'm also in like prime reading position right now, a spot in the sun. It is windy as all hell out there today, but the sun is lovely and I'm nice and protected. Having a good little time, getting quite hot actually, so I might move in a minute, but I don't know. Little impromptu update. I still don't really know how I'm feeling about this book. It's giving, and I just thought of this analogy, but they're currently fighting in like a main city. He got ambushed by her and her like associates, but it's giving the Marvel superheroes constantly, and like the villains constantly and continuously destroying New York City. And it just regenerating it, but like no one actually fixes it up. Because that's the only thing I can like liken these characters to is superheroes, because they're so all powerful. To the shocking lighting that my updates seem to provide. This video was meant to go up last night, and I want you to know that. But while I was editing, I imported the final 2 update clips for the Book of Azrael, only to discover that I'd filmed them in slow motion. I don't know how, because I filmed 2 entire videos right before giving you my final update, which weren't in slow motion. Maybe I formatted my SD card wrong, so I'm using a different one now, but I don't know. All goes to say, I did finish the Book of Azrael. I don't know that you guys are gonna like my conclusions on it. Following on from that first update, I was very confused, didn't really understand what was happening, didn't really like any of the characters, didn't really like the direction that the book was potentially going in, just didn't love what was happening. Update 2 was no different. Update 2, I was on the verge of DNFing it, but I didn't because I wanted to make a decent video for you guys. Anyway, in update 2, it was more of the same from update 1. I didn't like any of the characters. I said some terrible things about Diana. I was just a little bit kind of like, and I hate to say this about a woman, but she was just a little bit insufferable and I didn't like her character, and she was just overpowered was the word that I was looking for in that first update, which Claire so kindly provided for me after I ranted at her for like 20 minutes about this book. I was on the verge of DNFing it. I didn't tell you, but the hatred for the book was strong. I was about halfway through and I was not having a good time. That did change once I got into the second half of the book. The characters finally started having some development. Liam, we got to learn more of his story through some flashbacks, and Diana's past still kind of remains a mystery. I don't know if we'll ever get that unpacked more than the fact that she was found in the desert with Gabby and kind of like resurrected by Caden. I don't know if we'll ever get more than that, more explanation. So I'm still a bit confused on her, but her character got a lot more tolerable. Everyone was just intolerable for the first half of the book, to be honest. I actually started to like Diana and Liam. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I actually started to like them and I started to like their dynamic. It was very much Liam is a man of the old world, okay? He's not up with the times. He doesn't understand modern lingo and slang and sarcasm, so he takes everything literally, and Diana uses it to stir him up, basically, which is a dynamic that I love. So that was fun. I started enjoying it kind of once that got going. I did like, actually, I think Amber was quite clever with the way that she developed Liam's character. So he's this big god, right? It's known and it's made a point of at the start of the book that he can't really feel emotions. He's a bit numb to the world, but over the course of the book he actually starts to like feel things again, and I think Amber does it in a very like nice subtle way that you're not connecting the dots and not necessarily realizing what's happening, but he's starting to actually like feel emotions again because of Diana and the can I talk? And these things that she's making him feel and like experience. So that was a nice touch. I actually only realized it at the end of the book when she blatantly said it, that, oh, Liam's actually feeling things again. That's crazy. In the second half of the book, I did end up liking the world. I wasn't heinously against it like I was at the start. Like I still don't think I'm a big fan of urban fantasy. I don't think I'm a big fan of like telephones in fantasy. I would much rather don't text the person you're meeting. I would much rather you go down to the local tavern and have to find them and like pull them out of a pig stall or something. But all of the kind of modern technology and world definitely got put on the back burner in the second half of the book, and I think it could probably continue that way throughout the rest of the series. So I did enjoy that a lot more. It kind of delved more into the old world when the old gods were still alive, and kind of like the history that they left, and the history that Azrael in particular, the guy who wrote the book that Caden is looking for, the history that he left. So I did definitely prefer that. Speaking of the rest of the series, you guys might have to do some convincing if you want me to read the next book. I just think there's so much more fantasy that I would prefer to read. Like, I'm not saying no, I'm open to continuing the series. If it gets better, I'm open to it. But right now I'm just kind of like, I want to delve into my medieval fantasy good and proper. But otherwise, I think that's kind of all I had to say. I sort of shot myself in the foot with the final 2 updates that I filmed because I didn't write myself notes. I've wrote myself notes for every other update except those 2, and those 2, I can't remember what I said because I didn't write myself anything for them. The side characters definitely grew on me. The overpoweredness of the characters that I had a real problem with at the beginning sort of fell to the wayside, fell to the back burner as the story progressed and all of the characters' weaknesses actually came to fruition. I didn't have as much of a problem with the overpoweredness of them, but there was still an element of like, you've been built up to be this world-ending god and you're getting bested by this guy? By this guy? Really? I'm not gonna say any more than that because it is a big spoiler for the end of the book. I still have really conflicting feelings on this book. it's been a couple of days, so you know, I would have thought I had my ducks in a row a little bit more, but apparently not. For someone who wants an urban fantasy with darker undertones, I think that fits that niche so perfectly. It's written fairly well. The dialogue was a little bit rigid at times, but you know, whatever. I got over it by the end of the book and didn't really notice it anymore. So, you know, I think the Book of Azrael has its audience, and if it sounds like it would be something that you're interested in, I would absolutely encourage you to check it out. Despite owning the paperback, I am not sure that I like would have ever read it without filming this video. So it was a nice little push to try something out of my comfort zone, I guess. But ultimately, I feel like that is kind of the point of these TBR takedown videos, is to maybe push my tastes a little bit and pick up the books that I otherwise wouldn't have. So I haven't told you my rating for this book. I'm gonna give it a 3-star. The first half dragged a lot. It took me 3 weeks to get through it. I was not having a good time. But the second half definitely did pick up. I still had to kind of force myself to sit down and read it, but when I was reading it, I was having an okay time. I was liking it just a little bit. I think, you know, if any of these books in this video sounded good to you, I would encourage you to check them out. And I ultimately had a pretty good time and found some other good books. The Crimson Moth, I'm still thinking about it. I did buy the sequel. It's on my bookshelf. I think it's on my TBR this month, actually, for August. Took me so long to read the Book of Azrael, oh my god. Wall of Winnipeg and me. I don't need to read another Mariana Zapata book for at least a year, I think. She's satisfied me for a year. She's scratched that itch for me. I love Mariana Zapata, but I cannot read her books too close together. And then of course the Book of Azrael. It was okay. And I feel so bad saying that because I know there's a couple of you out there that love and worship this book. I feel bad, but it wasn't my favorite. I think that was to be expected because I've never really been the biggest fan of urban fantasy in any setting. Speaking of fantasy though, low-key think I'm back in my Merlin phase. This is an update for another video, but I've been getting a lot of edits on my TikTok view page and it's making me think. It's getting the cogs turning. I think that's all I've got to say. I think this video has run its course and I'm pleased that I managed to read 3 books no matter how long it took me. It's taken me probably like a month and a half. It takes me so long to film these videos, oh my god. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Tell me how you felt about these books if you've read them down in the description. I always say description. Down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Oh, that's one thing actually. Liam, this great big world-ending destroying god, and you're calling him Liam? Sam Kill, world destroyer, friggin' world ender. Liam, a 35-year-old white man working in finance. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one, which will be probably a TBR jar video, and then I'm reading The Night and the Moth, which might be feeding into the Merlin delusion a little bit. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!